Welcome to Season 2 of RecLess, the podcast making you smarter and more knowledgeable about the field of parks and recreation. Join hosts Shane Mize, Jay Tryon, and Tom Venniro, three career-long friends from around the country as they dive into the world of parks and recreation with a surprise guest each episode. Laughs, leadership, life. This is RecLess.
Well, here we go. Let's start. Welcome to the 39th episode of RecLess, the podcast focusing on the industry of park and recreation through three friends that are scattered throughout the country. My name is Jay Tryon. I'm your host today. And as always, I have Shane Mize and Tom Venniro with me. What's going on, guys?
What's up, fellas?
Hey, guys. It's been a while.
It's been a while. It has.
Well, we were actually just talking about food, and I'm going to continue the food conversation. I was doing some pre-show planning, and as I was learning about our guest, which you guys haven't even commented yet about our name of the guest.
Super secret special.
They changed
guest.
the name. When I got on, it just said guest.
Yeah. I actually think I made them feel bad because they had it guest, and I was like, you can change it and be like creative, because typically we talk about the name, and they're like, oh, I feel like I have to now. And I'm like, no, you don't have to, but the name totally ruined it.
What's funny, I was going to say, if it stayed guest, I was going to say, we haven't had someone call themselves just guest since I think the first episode. And then I saw Super Secret Guest, and we started talking about food.
So I guess technically, if they would have kept it as guest, it's very creative because it's usually not that. So it would have been different. So I was wrong in changing that. But speaking of food, as I was doing some homework and planning for this guest, I learned something that I have in common with the guest, and it is my obsession with ice cream, which I don't know if you guys if we've talked about ice cream. I have ice cream probably every single night. Not exaggerating, 7 days a week, probably have at least a couple bites. Not a full-blown like serving, but at least something, because I have a crazy sweet tooth. So I don't think Shane is a dessert person. Maybe he is, but like, what is your go-to dessert?
It's funny. It's well documented. I'm a steak and eggs guy, and everyone, including Tom just a minute ago, will tell you that it's, my way of eating is super unhealthy. And it's not like there's a lot of doctors coming out for my way of eating. I get it. But I offset that by not eating almost like I don't do Cokes or sodas. I don't do.
But you do Monster.
Sweet.
Do you think Monster's
sugar-free? But I guess what I'm saying is I don't eat a lot of sugar.
No, they're not. You don't always drink the sugar-free ones. The purple's not sugar-free.
Yeah, it's sugar-free. All the Monsters I drink are sugar-free.
They have a sugar-free version of every one, I assume, right?
They do. And I get very little sugar in my life, other than maybe some strawberries or some blueberries, which I'll throw in my kefir. I really don't eat.
In your what?
Kefir. It's like Greek yogurt or some sort of fancy yogurt.
It's kefir.
And that's probably what I'll tell you my dessert is. Like there's this yogurt that Hannah gets from the farmer's market, and they blend it with fruit purees. So it's strawberry kefir or lemon kefir or whatever, and I'll put a little whipped cream on it. And that's really, I don't do a lot of, I have enjoyed pies in the past or cakes or those types of things, but I do not have a sweet tooth. I don't have to eat donuts or muffins, or I can go to a place and they can have the world's greatest pancakes or French toast, and I'll just do bacon and eggs. So I am eating a lot of animal products, but I almost completely stay away from sugar and most carbs. I don't eat a lot of carbs. And so I really don't eat a lot of ice cream or treats. Every now and then. My son for Father's Day got me Bluebell, which is a Texas thing for the most part. Bluebell is a huge thing, and he got me a little pint of Bluebell ice cream with cereal mixed in. It's Fruity Pebbles or something. And I've probably had 5 literal spoonfuls. This pint will last me a year. I just don't eat a lot of sweets.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you, Shane. This wasn't really the greatest question for this panel.
This actually, this wasn't even meant to be my question. I have a second question that I already have teed up, ready to go, but we're taking this to another level.
So I will say that whatever episode must have been JD's, my wife listened to this morning, and that must have been when you outed yourself about ice cream, Jay, because my wife texted me. Our neighbor's name is Jay, by the way. So now I have way too much Jay in my life.
Way too much.
And so she texted me, "Oh, me and Jay are like dessert partners." I'm like, "What are you talking about? I don't even know enough about my neighbor Jay to know that he likes dessert." She's like, "Yeah." She goes, Jay on the podcast said he has ice cream every night. So yes, no lie. I should have mentioned that last episode. My wife has ice cream just about every night.
Jay, how
So
does it feel that
type of
there's
thing.
2 Jays in Tom's life and he thought of you second of the 2 Jays?
Well, I just think it's
Devastating?
funny. I just think it's funny that Tom's wife is hanging out with Jay all the time.
That's right.
what,
Any
that's
Jay.
what I didn't even know you guys were that close to take walks to the ice cream store. So yeah, for me, dessert is definitely not even secondary. It's something I don't even think about. In fact, I guess without them saying, secretly insult in-laws or anybody who makes dessert at family gatherings, because I'll typically pass on it when it's like, hey, you want a piece or whatever, someone's birthday. So even for my birthday, there's got to be a cake, right? And it's always got to be a cookie cake or an ice cream cake. So if I do indulge in
Eat a bite,
desserts,
eat a slice or something.
It's typically cookies, like chocolate chip cookies. Nothing crazy fancy with cookies. I like a good chocolate chip cookie and ice cream. And so the only other time I really indulge is if we go somewhere like a restaurant that's been known for having a really great dessert. And when we go to Disney, at least 50% of the reason I go is for the food. And so they always have crazy fancy desserts. So I like to indulge and give a few bites there, but that is not why or what I'm going to consume when I'm thinking about food.
I agree with Tom. I'm not a sweets person. Now, if there's homemade cookies or something, I'll definitely try one, but I can't. I don't feast on it. It doesn't become a meal. Like I would rather eat a second helping of something than I would have the pie or whatever. I can pick at it, have a bite or two. I get why people like it. It's just I
just don't crave it. Like I don't crave the sugars that way. And as opposed to Shane, I try to get in my fair dose of meats. Nothing like Shane, but I do love carbs. So I'm getting my sugars through sandwiches and pizza and and bread. I guess that's where my sugar comes from.
Hey, I may lose the pecan battle, but I'm pretty sure that you're not pronouncing the yogurt correctly.
Kefir?
It's not kefir. It's kefir.
No, there's no way. Sounds like you're sneezing.
It's.
Did you have
going off the rails here?
This one I would actually bet money on.
There's no way.
Okay, let's let the guests settle that argument, and maybe they don't even know what that is, but maybe they do. They started their career working for a local news station and has also worked as a photographer. They, just like Shane, they're a big Swiftie, big Taylor Swift fan.
I've got an idea.
Okay. They have presented at a number of conferences, but not just Park and Rec conferences. They have presented at other association conferences, including 3CMA, if you're familiar with that.
I am not.
I think I know who it is.
Okay. This person is actually, it's interesting. They've only held one position within Park and Rec, but you would never know that because of how successful they have been in that position.
Initials AB?
Yes. So you got it, which I expected you to.
Oh,
we have
and Beck. She already
and Beck as our guest.
I figured it was out. I mean,
I love it.
So you are good. Yes. So Ann is the marketing communication manager for Mansfield Park and Rec in Texas. Welcome, Ann, to the podcast.
Hi. I was having a very hard time not weighing in on that food conversation because I'm actually on what I like to call the ELF diet. I pretty much just sugar. Like I don't eat any meat. I don't eat any vegetables. It's like all white bread, cheese, and sugar. And yes,
perfect.
Bluebell ice cream that I am obsessed with. When they came back after the recall, if you're not from Texas and you don't know, there was a little issue. It wasn't their fault, but they were about 18 months where there was not any Bluebell in production.
Wow.
Ever since then, I've had a separate freezer in my garage. So I can keep a stockpile of Bluebell ice cream because I don't ever want to go 16 months without my Bluebell. So my dog is actually named Bluebell because of Bluebell.
I love that.
That's awesome.
Yes.
I do love the elf reference. I love syrup.
Yeah, it's pretty
Yes.
much like just like that's the easiest way to explain it to people. It's just sugar and carbs. That's really it.
I feel like I'm on the same diet because I eat a ton of carbs. I eat bagels like every day, and then I finish my day with desserts. So it's
You
perfect.
started with desserts too. I mean, donut is a pretty sugary
Yeah.
thing.
Well, and
I
it's
do
like Shane
enjoy
was
my
saying, like,
donuts.
I don't think anybody is like, advertising my diet as the most healthy in the world, but it's worked. So
There you
I'm
go.
like, why would I stop now?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Welcome to the podcast.
Yeah.
Excited to be here. It's very fun. Yeah.
Well, I'm excited that you're here too, because we don't talk necessarily about some of the work that you do with a lot of our guests. And, we've talked to a lot of guests throughout the 2 seasons of different presentations they've done at conference, but it's usually more in the recreation world or more in the planning or strategic planning or operations. And obviously, you're going to different conferences. You recently went to New Orleans and did a session there with a very different organization. Can you talk about that and kind of other things that you've been focusing on in your world?
Yeah, my background is really communications and marketing. I did a double major, so I have a lot of experience in both, which one of my pet peeves is that people think that marketing and communications are the same thing, and they're really very different. Like if you were going to school for it, communications is in the same side as like journalism and advertising, and marketing is in the business side, because marketing is where you're looking into more of the strategy stuff. And so really with a lot of city communications, what you find is that the person handling marketing doesn't have any experience in either. It's like a manager of a rec center or a secretary, a lot of that, like that kind of thing. And so they're just kind of thrown into it, trying to figure out, what to do and how to handle it and how to, do the best job they can communicating with the public. And so that's kind of how I got into doing all the conference sessions, because, I really believe in all the work that everybody does in Parks and Rec, like gives such a great impact on residents. And so, if you can actually do a better job of making those relationships and telling those stories and all of that, then you can be so much more effective in your work. So the New Orleans conference was the National Association of Government Communicators, which was really interesting because it was a lot of federal and state. It was I think it was only 40% local, and then it was like 30% federal, and then whatever is left was state. But I'm not a math person. But but so that was really neat, because there were people from HUD and people, from like all the big organizations and stuff like that. I just, I find it all really interesting. We're at a really weird time where trust in government is just tanking. And, for a long time, local government still had pretty high trust, even when national fell. And now all of that is falling to, really due in large part to everything really kind of from COVID on has been a lot of those big controversial decisions like masks and closures and stuff that everybody kept passing down, so they were like, oh, we're going to let the local organizations decide this. And so then all of a sudden now we were the ones making the decisions that made everybody mad. And so, whether you're getting into bathroom bills or, statues in your parks, all of that kind of stuff now has hit the local level. And so it's just gotten a lot harder to really build those strong relationships. And when I go to a lot of the conferences I go to are just for like NAGC, like people who do communications for the city as a whole. And one of the things I'm always advocating for is, to really lean on like the Parks and Rec, especially because we're one of the few departments that only has positive relationships with residents. You only talk to the water department if your bill is too high or
Right.
your line broke, right? You only talk to planning and zoning probably when you get a ticket or you want to put a shed in and they're telling you no, right? Every other department, when you're dealing with them, you're almost always having a bad experience, even if it's nothing to do with them. Even police and fire, if they're saving your life, like it's still probably the worst day of your life, right? Your house just burned down. Like, thank you for saving my life, but also it wasn't like they met you on your best day. So we're able to build those relationships that are just purely positive and happy. And so it's just such a great opportunity to kind of, build them up so that you can have a good, strong relationship with residents before you have to tell them the bad news stuff. So
It's such an interesting, you're right. I mean, with other departments, because, we are so forward facing and most of the time positive. There are always going to be some instances where people are upset about something. But there is probably no other department for a municipality that has the positive connection like Park and Rec does. Because, like you said, when you're reaching out, it might be for a bad reason or for something that happened that was unfortunate. Now, that tends to then allow us to build relationships and foster a positive relationship with both the public in a individual setting and a group setting too, which is obviously like right up your alley and what you do. Is there, I know there's not like one step to do that, but like what's been your most successful avenue of building a positive relationship of all the different platforms that you've seen, or campaigns, I should say?
Yeah. Well, one other thing too that is really unique with Parks and Rec is that we're the only ones. I mean, there are other departments that have to do customer service, but we're the only ones that have competition, right? Like the water department has a customer service role, but people can't choose a different water department, right? And so we're uniquely having to actually get people to not use a private company, not use a different, place for lessons, or, go somewhere else for LA Fitness for the gym, something like that. So it's just a very different experience all around from anybody else at City Hall. If you think about things like brand loyalty, like, people that are like diehard Apple fans that will camp out for the new iPhone and, that kind of stuff. Like, if you can really think about it more of that term of like building that brand loyalty, once you get people that close and really feeling strong and positive about your organization, then you can kind of do anything. I mean, we could look at Elon Musk, right? There's all the, the memes on Twitter and whatnot about like, he could do whatever and his fans would still be like, amazing, good job, great, And same thing with Apple. Like there's a lot of features that Samsung has that Apple does not have. And you try telling a diehard iPhone user, and I say this as a diehard iPhone user, but you try telling a real Apple person that, and they will immediately just start defending them, right? So if you can build that relationship first, I think for me, a lot of it has been, it doesn't really matter what the platform is or, what the method is, but really it's just like flooding people with positive news, like so much. And you can see this in any kind of conversation people have is like, oh, all the news is terrible now. Everybody on Facebook is just complaining, right? You just hear those things over and over. So if you can just put lots and lots of happy news, because really, like algorithm wise, the stuff that gets the best reaction is anything that elicits a strong response, an emotional response, which tends to be anger, right? Because those are the ones, like if you agree with X politician, comment if you do, that kind of thing. But happiness and joy and, sentiment and all that is also a really strong emotional response. So, if you can just tell lots of really, really good stories, like we get probably some of the best engagement when we share our staff, when we talk about good things that we did. And, even just like, hey, we worked so hard and look at how we cleaned up after the flood. Hey, hats off to our crews. They planted, 10,000 flowers this spring, which like is the same amount we plant every year. It's not like it was anything different, but just saying it, just telling people that it's happening. Even when residents are frustrated and angry and whatnot, like they still want to be proud of their town, right? They moved here, they made this investment. They don't want to hate the city, right? They want to be proud of where they live and be able to brag about it. But you have to give them reasons to brag about it because they don't know if you don't tell them.
And you sound like it sounds like you're talking about the movie Inside Out right now, because I don't know if anybody's seen Inside Out 2 recently, but
I haven't seen 2 yet.
Yeah, 4-year-old and 2-year-old. We went this past Saturday, and the characters are joy and anger, and it's so interesting to kind of relate social media and marketing to emotions.
Yeah.
A lot of the times that probably gets lost on some of us in the day-to-day, where it's, hey, you know what, register for this. This is a program we have going on, not necessarily connecting it to people's personal emotions. Can you talk a little bit about the, maybe and I know you deliver sessions like this. One thing we did not notice, and I'm sure, Jay, you probably were getting to this, and your sessions, you pretty much get the big room when it comes to NRPA, right? So these sessions fill up. You better get there early. We've talked about that with a few of our other guests, but certainly that is the case for you. You mentioned algorithms and talking about people's emotions. Can you speak a little bit to that for us? You probably get asked that all the time, but social media is I think that's a tough nut to crack. And for most of us who may not have a specialist like yourself, how would you maybe go that kind of algorithms for dummies type of book, or for the general Facebook, social media, what's not to add too many questions to the question, but how does that differ across different platforms as well?
If you listen to our podcast at all, you know Tom adds at
Multiple
least two
questions.
to
Yes.
That's okay. If you listen to me talk at all, you know I'm just going to talk and talk and talk and talk regardless. So
You're
it doesn't
perfect.
even matter.
Perfect guess.
Hopefully this is like an 8-hour podcast. I think what you're asking is like how to know like what to post like to get the best responses and things. Is that kind of what you're saying? Like how it works?
Yeah. I mean, how do we know that we're actually being successful? I know that there's ways to track here and there, but you know, it's for the novice out there, it's maybe not that simple.
Yeah, I mean, to know if you're being successful, you know, would be, you know, if your numbers are growing,
Sure.
your engagement and all of that kind of stuff. I mean, I think one of the most important things to remember is that, like, by definition, social media is meant to be social. Like, that's why they call it that. So one of the biggest mistakes I see a lot of cities make is just treating it like a bulletin board. Right. We all have the bulletin board in our rec center. Right. So if every post that you put up is just like, sign up for this class, here is our event, you know, and it's not encouraging a conversation or any kind of interaction or relationship or anything, then it's not going to do anything for you. And you can kind of think about it like, you know, if you buy something and they're like, hey, follow us on Facebook, sign up for text to get 20% off. And then all of a sudden you get 100 texts a day from that company. And you're like, I bought the shoes one time. I don't need to keep doing this. Right. Or you follow them to get whatever the discount code is. And then every other picture now is a coupon or an ad from that company, right? Nobody follows a brand to see their ads, right? You follow because they're adding something to your day. You're adding value to their feed, essentially. Like Michael's Craft Store does a really good job where almost their entire feed is just little quick videos of craft projects that you can do. Right. So then at the end of it, it's like, here's all the supplies that you need. And oh, by the way, we sell them at Michael's, right? But they're not selling you the craft supplies. They're just selling you how to do these things. So they're adding that value to their followers. So that gives you a reason to keep following them. And then you share it with your friend. You're like, hey, this looks like fun. We should make this, right? So you want to think about it in just terms of a user, right? Like what does the user want? Really, all marketing comes down to targeting. Like it's your target audience. That's really the baseline of it. I use this example all the time, so you've probably heard it, but you know, target marketing sounds complicated, but everybody knows how to do it. Because if I said you had to borrow $1,000 from your grandmother, and you think about like what that conversation would be like, and then I said, okay, now you have to borrow $1,000 from one of these 3 guys here, right? Is that the same conversation? Right? No, it's not, right? You're not going to approach it the same way. You're not going to ask the same things, right? Because you know that your grandmother and your best friends need to hear things differently, right? They have different motivations and that kind of thing. So it's just thinking like that. You got to think like your audience, like what do they want to see? What do they need from you? And then, you know, tailor the material accordingly. Like there's not ever going to be a one size fits all right answer for like, you should always do videos and they should always be like this and all like that, because every community is different. And so it really needs to be, who are you talking to in this moment and what do they want and what will help them? As far as the actual algorithms, you know, Facebook owns Instagram now. It's all part of Meta. So they really work completely the same. Nobody knows how Twitter works now because it doesn't really work. I still love it. I'm hanging on by a thread, but that I wouldn't even mess with it right now, especially just because of all the inappropriate content that is now allowed. Like I wouldn't say that's a good place for any sort of city to be having a platform. We don't do TikTok because our governor does not allow it. So that's not even an option for us. But really, the thing about like all those other platforms is, again, you want to think about your audience, and there are adults on, like pretty much our audience is adults, right? You know, you obviously want to connect with kids, but that's not as much of a priority because the adults are the ones that are making the decisions. So even if you want a kid to want to take your class, their mom still has to be the one to sign off. So you kind of are still always talking to the moms. Are, you know, statistically the calendar creators. They're, you know, they're the ones that schedule things and whatnot. There are adults on TikTok, but they're all also on Instagram and usually Facebook too, you know, so you're not missing anybody. So if you're thinking about adding a platform, just think like, is there anybody I'm not reaching by not being on this platform? So really like Facebook and Instagram for any kind of adult in the United States is going to cover all those bases. And then, you know, LinkedIn for more of the economic development kind of stuff. But so as far as how their algorithms work, short version, you know, it's all based on engagement. which just is literally engaging. Like we are engaging now. It's having a conversation, right? It's talking back and forth, not just talking at you. And so they rank the different types of engagement. The highest ranked engagement on Facebook or Instagram is when people are having conversations in your post. So if you post a picture and then somebody is like, oh my gosh, I'm so excited. And then somebody replies to that comment and is like, I'm excited too. We should take the kids, right? That kind of a conversation in your post, that's the best that you can do. That's exciting because Meta wants to keep people on the platform, right? So if people are having conversations and you're creating these little like mini town halls for them to talk, then they are going to keep you there longer. So that's the highest. And then comments, sharing, and then just flat out likes, So, but again, it's all about creating that kind of dialogue. Sometimes it's just as simple as sign up for our camp, tag a friend you think would be interested, like adding that little reminder to get people to comment or, asking people a question. We got really good engagement last week. Somebody, I think it was like a news station in San Antonio, I forget, shared a list that some national company did a study of the top cities for nude cycling.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yes, exactly. And so I pulled up the list and Mansfield, population 80,000 random. We were like 370 or something, like almost at the bottom of the list, but not quite the bottom, thank goodness. So I just, did a little post and said, hey, we just found out we're number 374. We didn't know this was a thing. Should we be focusing on this? Do we need to add this to our master plan? It got a lot of conversations.
I'm sure it did.
I wonder what number Pflugerville is.
Yeah, I don't know. I'll send you the link.
500.
No, top 10.
Yeah. But anything like that just kind of gets a little bit of a conversation started. And then the other thing is that when a topic is trending, which could be because it's Christmas and everybody is talking about Christmas or the Super Bowl, or it could be like a meme or something like that, those will get automatically boosted by the algorithm because they identify trending topics. And so then they say, okay, everybody is talking about the Oscars. So then they scan the feeds for anything that is also on that same topic because we know people are talking about it. They're interested in this right now. So that we want to show them more of that content so that they can keep seeing it. So anytime you can, jump on, we did a lot of Taylor Swift content. I mean, partially because I'm a Swiftie. Here, I'll show you. There she is.
There's the candle.
Our Lord and Savior, Taylor Allison Swift. So partially, because I just like that, but also because she was coming to town. And so it was a good day to do, something about it. Everybody on our local feeds was talking about it. So, so those are the two big things on as far as understanding the algorithm is just getting people to, really engage with your posts and then trying to be kind of more current on stuff that's going.
So do the hashtags, when you say they're scanning for content, do the hashtags even matter? Or if I just put something like in a post about the Oscars and the Oscars is trending, or should you be putting hashtag Oscars?
Yeah, not really. No, they work a little bit on Instagram, but not much. On Instagram, it can help you get on the explore page, but they don't do anything on Facebook. I mean, sometimes people do them just to be able to sort, like to find your own posts, so if you want to be able to find all the posts that you did about one campaign, you can just use one hashtag and then later you can go back and pull that up. So sometimes I will do it just purely for like internal organization rather than like scrolling through your feed, and finding all those links, but they don't use them for anything. This new study said that they found that Uber charges you more based on your battery percentage because if you have a low battery, they know you're desperate.
Wow.
I know. They had people in the exact same location at the exact same time of day, exact same starting ending point, and one had a 12% battery and one had 80%. And the person with the lower battery every single time got a higher charge.
It's a great lesson. Everybody charge up before you get an
super
Uber.
Interesting.
Yeah. See, this is why I love fun facts, right? They are fun.
It's interesting and just wrong.
Oh yeah. And that's really like the article that I was reading what was about all that was just kind of like all the different ways that companies are now able to, screw us. Can I say that on the podcast? I don't know.
Sure.
Shane says way worse.
Shane says whatever he wants.
Okay.
That's right. Viewer discretion advised.
So there's all sorts of different things that they're able to do just, based on, on the data that is readily available on your phone. And so, so they're using all kinds of things like that, like on Facebook and all the information that they're selling. I mean, everybody always, sometimes it'll go around Facebook where it's like, Facebook is going to start charging if you don't copy and paste this text into your post. It's just like it's like a chain letter thing that old people fall for.
Yeah.
It's not true. It's not ever true. But really, like, the reason that Facebook is free is because we are what they're selling.
Collateral. Yeah.
Like, we are the commodity. They're selling us, right? They're making billions of dollars because they're selling all of your information. Like, by being on the platform, you are agreeing to be sold, essentially. So even if you have your stuff set to private, it's not as private as you think.
I think Anne's superpower in a lot of ways. So I obviously am a huge fan of Anne. I have her listed in my 4-person tabletop with Ryan and Emma. I listed her on this podcast previously as one of those sessions you don't miss. When I first got to attend one of Anne's sessions, I made a complete ass of myself, basically being her tour manager without even asking her permission, just promoting her all over. But I think Anne's superpower is that she's a park and rec professional, but she doesn't think like a park and rec professional. And part of that is because you spend a lot of time outside of the park and rec industry. So when you first transitioned at first, and I have offered Anne plenty of job opportunities. She refuses to come work for me. It's one of my greatest.
Smart lady.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
One of my greatest sadnesses. I did it right in front of Matt, her director, one time too. And he was not worried about my offer at all. He knew what he had in hand. But when you first got in our industry, how rudimentary did you feel like we were doing? I mean, were we the problem? First of all, calling marketing and comms, is that something we've done? Like, we've taken 2 things we don't know and we've put it in one job and made one person try to do it. When you came in, how much of like a first grade level were we operating on, compared to what you had done in the private sector in your previous jobs? And what were some of the things that you still think to this day we could be doing a better job at?
Yes. Sorry, that was also a multi-part question.
Yeah.
You blamed him before, but like that was a lot too.
I gotta get my punches in. This is already.
I appreciate that. That's really nice, and not a lot of people come to my defense here, and that question was I couldn't follow it.
Yeah, no, well, I think part of it too is like I had some other responses to other things you were saying, and I'm like, okay, wait, now I have to forget that so I can remember the other thing. So I took this job partially because, I was looking for something more full-time. I'd done like a lot of consulting and I was looking for something more concrete and full-time and regular. My girls were older. They're all very grown now. My oldest actually is the special events manager in the city of Grand Prairie.
Look at that.
So I was looking for more of a full-time job. And, growing up, my mom was always like on the school board and always very, not like super community activist, but pretty passionate about, getting involved and things like that. We had moved to Texas from Wisconsin, and my parents had never been south of Chicago. They were very Yankees. Like, we used to get in the bathtub with the mattress over us, like every time there was a tornado warning for like 2 years before they finally figured out like every other week there's a tornado warning. So we're okay. So I was definitely raised, to be really, involved and to kind of, give back and, work in the community and stuff. And so I just liked the idea of, something where I could be, doing what I love of marketing. I really like all the strategy and like the kind of the psychological side of it, thinking about how people think and stuff, but also not like selling pharmaceuticals, right? I always use the joke, like I sell sunshine and swing sets, right? Like,
That's
what
right.
could be better than that, right? So it definitely has been interesting. And I will say, like, I didn't mean marketing and communications shouldn't be the same job. They're just not the same thing. And a lot of people really, even at like the city hall level too, will be like former journalists, and so they are really good at telling a story like that, like a journalism story. But, in news, you are taught to be unbiased. Like, that is like one of the main things. And not that you want to be biased, but you also do need to be more strategic in how you sell things. And that's why the marketing side of it is so important, because it is just a different thing. So it's just helpful to have experience in both. So I would say it really just kind of depends on, as far as how bad everything was. Not that bad. I was, the first time that I did a session on social media, I was really thinking I was talking to like more of an intermediate level. And then like the first question that I got, I forget what it was. I think it was like, how do we set up an account or something? It was like so basic level. And I was like, oh shoot, like we need to start over. Like, I was talking to the next step. I think the most important thing on any of it is, I mean, how many people that are in parks or city or anywhere are like doing the job that they did their degree in? Like I tell my girls that all the time, like, you're stressing about like what major to choose. It doesn't matter. Like, how many people do you know that are actually working in the field that their major was? Like, when I graduated college, social media didn't exist. I actually did my senior thesis, 62 pages, on the impact of the internet on journalism. And my conclusion was that it would not be a huge impact because because the internet is open source and no real journalist would take it seriously and actually use it as a resource.
You just outed yourself.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I'm like, so clearly you don't have to know everything at 20 because nobody does. And, everything is growing and evolving, and as are we. So there's certainly nothing wrong with somebody not having any training. I think it's more just like being willing to learn, kind of being open to, trying something new and trying something different, and, really thinking about the motivation. My biggest frustration across the board is when people are just like, Facebook's the worst. Social media is the worst. It all sucks. It's terrible, because, it's not. Like, I grew up in a really small town in Texas, and there was one gay kid at our school, and he wasn't even out, but we all knew. But like, I can't even imagine how hard that was for him. So to think about like my girls being able to grow up, be able to connect with anybody regardless of where they live, like you can find anything. I mean, honestly, like I said, I love fun facts. Like, it drives me crazy to not know things. And like, I can't watch a show without IMDb open, right? Like, where do I know that girl from? Where do I know them from, right? So like the idea that we have all this information at our fingertips, that we can connect with people. Like, I very distinctly remember calling my grandmother on Sundays after 7, when it was like, that was when the long distance calls were cheaper. Right. And that was the only time I spoke to my grandmother, and she got like pictures in the mail once or twice a year from us. So now for like me to be so close with my cousins who are in North Wisconsin, like, it's just like such a great shift in the world. Like, it really does bring people together. So rather than being so, oh my God, this is the worst about it, like, there's parts of it that suck, but there's parts of everything that suck. Right. So, if we can just kind of focus on all the good that it does and all the great opportunities that it is. I mean, think about like having to do a park opening and having to like create a press release now, right? And like begging news media to show up in order for anybody to know that it's happening, versus like now we get to do it and take our own pictures and post our own video and tell everybody about it. Like, it's so much easier and cheaper versus newspaper ads and all that kind of stuff. Like, it's made it so much better for us. And we actually have such a direct connection with residents that like, we should just be excited about it and taking every opportunity. I think the one thing, aside from attitude, that people should be doing a better job at is like working together interdepartmentally. I know when I go to parks conferences, I'm always telling them, don't hate on the city hall people. Like, I know that they have lots of rules and that they are always really strict, and that everybody in parks hates the city hall people because they're always telling them no and stuff like that. But like, probably they have a reason behind it, and maybe let's figure out how we can work together. And then I go to the city conferences and I'm like, don't hate on the Parks and Rec people. I know that they're always going rogue and posting stuff you don't want them to, but it's because they're so excited about it. So bring them into the fold and let's figure out how we can all work together. Because I mean, our residents do not care what department we're from. Like, they think library programs are parks programs. They think anything, they think half of the school district stuff comes from the city, right? They don't know the difference, and they don't care, and they shouldn't have to. So why should we be so like siloed of like, oh no, that's a library thing, that's a parks thing, that's a city hall thing, whatever. Like, they don't care. Like, if we could work together better, I think that we would all be so much stronger as a city.
Yeah, I really appreciate your outlook on, I guess, the positive outlook on it, right? Because there is so much negativity that follows. But obviously, we talked about this earlier. There's a lot of positivity that comes with Parks and Rec. And to comment on that collaboration or just embracing the other departments, we have an organization where our town does not want to necessarily go the route of having a social media page for the town. So they like to funnel a lot through the Parks and Rec department. And so we'll do that. And, one way we interact and make it fun is, they'll ask, hey, don't forget, our town clerk's office will say, don't forget, can you just put this on there about taxes being due? Who wants to read about taxes being due? So we'll make a joke of it, right? We'll say everybody's favorite time of the year, everyone, and make some kind of a graphic and try to get people to engage. And I think that's what it's all about, is getting an engagement or a laugh. That's what you've kind of been preaching here. what I wanted to lead into, you had showed us a Taylor Swift candle.
Mhm.
And by the way, your office space is extremely neat. I noticed Ted Lasso back there. Is that correct?
No, actually, it's Ron Swanson and Leslie.
Oh, okay. Just as great. Ron Swanson and Leslie. No, are those
Holy Trinity, right? I'm a Holy Trinity here.
So I really appreciate a session just like a social media post that can be engaging, and your sessions are certainly known for the engagement piece, and you're very creative. And one that you did recently had kind of marketing lessons surrounding Netflix, right? And so kind of playing off of trending or popular terms or organizations like a Netflix. Could you maybe just share with those out there who enjoy either attending sessions or maybe those who aspire to be a speaker and a presenter? What is your secret sauce to mentioning our friend Atuya, right? Special, what is it? Secret sauce? Was that what it was? Awesome sauce. What is your awesome sauce?
You can't screw it up and then
I know. Now we got to cut that, Hannah. We can't. So what is your secret to presenting and coming up with these really creative ideas for your sessions?
At the risk of sounding like super cliche, it's like I was saying earlier, like that it all comes back to like the targeting, like the audience, like you just think about like, what do you want to hear and what do you want to see? Pretty much all of my sessions have always had some kind of tie-in. Like I did do the everything you need to know about marketing you can learn from Taylor Swift too. Or no, what was it? Oh, Great Swifties, that was it. So it was all about creating like a community around your brand. Like how Taylor has her Swifties. So getting the same sort of idea in your community. That one was really fun because it was just songs. But I like to use like a metaphor or whatever, kind of tie it to things that people already know and are interested in. I think a lot of that is just marketing, like as a concept, can sound really big and complicated, and pretty much anything that we do, taxes or planning or strategy, all that kind of stuff. Like when you're having to talk about like a really big and complex topic, it can just be kind of bleh, right? And even though conferences are supposed to be like learning, a lot of people go for the fun, right? They want to enjoy themselves and they want to be interested in it. They don't want to sit through a really boring like Bueller kind of lecture. If you can connect it to something that they already know and that they already care about and are interested in, then that will help get them paying attention. Part of why I like fun facts, because you can just throw them out there, then that gets people, back engaged and thinking again and energized and whatnot. Did you know that alligators don't have a life expectancy?
Fun fact.
They can't die of old age. Yeah. They can't die of old age. Like they can die because they get like killed or like starved to death or something, but they don't have like an actual life expectancy. If they are like sheltered and fed and in a safe environment, they'll never die.
Wow.
Like a dinosaur.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So just think those swamps of Louisiana, there are some like 1,000-year-old alligators in there.
Some dinosaurs. Yeah. That's a really great, I think a great piece of advice for people out there. And it also parallels to your programming. I was having a conversation with my wife. She's an art teacher and she also does a sip and paint traveling business. And we've seen exactly what you're saying. So this isn't just maybe a presentation, but she does this well on her own. But if you were to create a program, if she's typically going for adults and she wanted to crack into the teens or whatever, and you were to create a paint and sip program around Taylor Swift and Swifties, absolutely, just marketing that way catches people, their eyes, and all of a sudden you have a whole new audience, right? Which I guess parallels really well.
Yeah, and really, like the first session that I did for NRPA, it was back when it was virtual. I think it was 2020. Was about creating like Instagram worthy spots like within your parks and spaces and stuff. Because like that's what we noticed. Like people like to take pictures, right? Like that's kind of a duh thing, right? They want something to take a picture of, and it doesn't even have to be like a mural on the wall, like. You think like, I guess your kids are a little bit young. I don't know about the rest of your kids, but like, when it's like crazy sock day at school, right? Or pajama day at school. And like your whole Facebook feed is just like full of people posting like, oh, it's sock day at school. It's crazy hair day. People love doing those kinds of things. And so, there's so many ways you can just take something completely normal and then add a little bit of a hook, just a little bit of a theme. If you have a standing pickleball tournament, then make this one, themed like Taylor Swift, make this one themed like 80s. And it's an 80s costume contest with your pickleball tournament. All you have to do is play 80s music and, tell them there's a costume contest and, throw up some little decorations. And now it's something different, and it's something they're going to take a picture and they're going to post it. Like, look at us in our cute 80s outfits at the pickleball tournament. And now they're advertising for your program. We have a 5K that we started in 2018 that it's won lots of national awards. Council makes fun of me because every time I talk, I'm like, our award-winning Parks Department. But it is won an award. And again, if you don't tell people, they don't know. So now our residents, every time they reference the Parks Department, they're like, oh, well, we have an award-winning Parks Department. I'm like, So we started this 5K because we knew 5Ks were really popular. We have a lot of fit people in Mansfield. They love to run. And
just not naked.
No, well, I don't know. Actually, that was cycling. It was the naked cycling.
That's right.
So I don't know about the nude running. I didn't look that one up. I noticed that whenever we posted anything about the shelter, because our shelter doesn't have like their own page or anything, so sometimes I would share their posts for them. All of that got really good engagement. So we started a 5K where you could sign up and run with the shelter dog. So you get paired with a dog from the shelter and you take them on your little 5K. And then, there's like open adoption and stuff after that. It was crazy popular, so much so that we added a like couch to 5K training program where every Saturday morning they would meet up and run with a dog from the shelter for the, training run. And again, it was super simple. It was literally the person that was doing the training was like a rec attendant that we like downloaded the couch to 5K program, and they like blew a whistle when it was like, now you run, now you walk. They were just like standing there blowing a whistle based on a timer. Like, there was not any real strategy to it. But the people were really excited that they got to run with a shelter dog, and everybody posted the pictures because look at me, I'm so good. I'm helping a shelter dog, right? So again, it's just something that's just a little bit different, a little bit fun, and a little bit of a hook. And so it just kind of catches the attention and just helps it stand out. It is kind of hard because it means you have to be constantly, reinventing and looking for what's the next new, cool, fun thing. That's also what makes it fun.
Well, speaking of that, like trying to find the next fun thing, I follow a ton of social media groups, different municipalities, including yours. Are there any other park and rec departments that you follow that you look forward to seeing what they post because they're always creative and kind of throwing out new fun things?
At the top of my head, I'm not really thinking. I know the city of McKinney on Instagram does a ton of really good reels. They do a really, really good job with that. Also their parks department, but also randomly Farmers Branch is a city in Texas, and their aquatic center does really cute reels. Like, those are always really fun. I think I get most inspiration actually from not city agencies.
Okay.
And that's kind of what I'm always encouraging people to do is, not just look at what is trending among cities, because it's kind of like, there's a running joke. All the Instagram reels are TikToks from 2 weeks ago, right? And so, so it's like, that's when moms see them. Cities are kind of like that generally, that like by the time a city is like hopping on a trend, it's like not really a trend anymore. That's just the case with,
government
and whatnot. So, so I think like diversifying and just kind of looking for inspiration anywhere, any kind of brands that are being creative and doing something different. I have like a whole file drawer that is just like random like flyers and pages from magazines and stuff of like design stuff that I just really like, and kind of trying to figure out like how we can make this ours. So I think it's just sort of being open to ideas wherever they may come, and not just being like pigeonholed into just parks departments or just cities and stuff.
Yeah.
So they say, what is it? Invention is the something necessity. I don't know that saying.
No, you don't.
I have no idea.
Necessity is the mother of invention. That's it.
Yeah, we'll edit that. We were at TRAPS, which is our state conference, and I believe we were in Galveston, and there were three. Ann was going to do a session, Jason Mangum was doing a session, someone else was doing a session, and they were having troubles getting all the walls between those sessions up.
That was Frisco.
Was it Frisco? Okay. So we have the rooms set up as far as there's podiums, there's screens, there's chairs, but there's no walls in between. So they're having a tough time getting the automatic walls to come up.
Like the general session was one big room, and then they were splitting it into three.
Yeah. So everyone's sitting there waiting for this to happen. And I was talking with Ann, but I wanted to mention this to the group. I was on the program committee for a long time, and this happened right as I was rotating off, but I think it'd be something that would be interesting. Here's my idea. Instead of putting the walls up, the silent disco technology. Okay. So you have Ann as screen one, Jason as screen two, and and RecLess podcast is screen 3, but it's one big room. And you know how at the silent disco you can flip through stations and you can hear country music or whatever. What I hate is if I'm in a session and I get buyer's remorse, you either have to sit there because you're trying to get your CEU, or you leave, but you don't want to be an ass, because all of us have presented and have seen people leave, and that's a terrible thing. Even if you want people to leave, if they don't want to be in that session, you feel bad about being the person that puts your back at the speaker's face at some point. How cool would it be if you had something, and I don't know how the CEUs would work, but if you were just in a room and I was intrigued by what Ann had on the screen, you could just flick to it and you could start listening to the other session.
I don't think that that's well thought out.
No, it's genius.
Listen. Let's just say it was RecLess and Jason Megham and
we would never have anyone listening. I get it.
Wait, so my point is, when we see everybody's heads turn the other way, nobody is facing us.
You might as well just leave the
They
room.
get up and move over so they can see Ann scream better.
In that case, do we move in front of their faces and start talking, or do we just leave?
We just clicked over and listened to what are they saying that's so damn good that everyone's listening to. But I remember thinking, man, if these walls don't go up, how are we going to have 3 sessions? And then I thought, man, that technology would be really cool, because everyone could have the headphones on and then you could just flick through, and you could actually sit next to a coworker, but y'all could be listening to different sessions. And if there was something cool, the coworker could tap you on the shoulder and you could point over there and listen to that real quick or whatever. So,
yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, because that was literally like the worst session of my entire career. Like I've been
it threw everybody off. Yeah.
For years.
It was late.
Thanks for reminding me.
Yeah. While we're talking about sessions, what is a session that, if it's on the schedule, the speaker, you absolutely drop everything to go to?
I don't know. I mean, I said like in my things that could be clues was that like I literally do, like I say I collect fun facts, like I am just always interested in learning, which sounds really lame, but I don't have a better way to say it. I read constantly, and it's always like really random stuff, or like lots of like pop psychology kind of stuff. I listen to a ton of different podcasts that are just like all over the spectrum, just because I just like knowing more things. And I think I'm kind of always looking for something different. I don't know that I have a lot of like speakers that I go to every single one of their sessions, because I'm always trying to hear like the next thing. I want to broaden. And also I think being so new to parks, I mean, I guess it's been 8 years now, but I still feel like I'm pretty new. Actually we had a whole thing with our park planner, because I asked him for an update on a project, and he told me it was in the grubbing phase. And I thought he was making that word up. Like, do you guys know what snipe hunting is?
Snipe hunting?
Snipe hunting?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a thing they used to do like when I was in high school, and you'd say like, hey, we're going to go snipe hunting. And then they'd like leave you in the middle of the woods.
It's for the gullible.
So yeah, I think in the movie Up, another Disney reference, the gentleman Carl tries to send, what's the young boy, Russell, out on a snipe hunt.
Oh yeah.
And there is no snipe.
Exactly. Yeah, there's no such thing. But you tell people it's like sort of like a squirrel, and like you take a pillowcase and you're like, no, you just like hit the tree at night and they'll fall into your pillowcase. Yeah. So I kind of thought that he was like snipe hunting me. And by making me say grubbing, I'm like, that's not a word. Nobody's ever heard of that word. But then it turns out it's a real thing. So, I'm always learning. I think I'm always trying to find other stuff that I can learn just to get to know more of the different sides of it. I mean, I'm not involved in planning. I'm not involved in operations. I'm not involved in recreation. Like, I'm just the marketing person, but I have to be able to tell people about all of it. So I kind of have to know something about everything in order to give the best responses and whatnot. I like to say I know the first answer to every question that people will ask. And then when it comes to the second question, I'm going to have to refer you out, but I need to at least have those first questions. So I'm just kind of always trying to diversify and learn. And that's, that's why I went to that NIGC conference. That was one I'd never been to before. I try to go to different ones. Some of the best sessions that I've ever been to were at the Texas Library Association conference. Libraries do a lot of community building and a lot of outreach and a lot of like underserved population work. So there were some really interesting conversations happening there. There's a lot of similar crossover kind of stuff. And so I'm just always kind of looking for something else that can help me do my job better and our city be better. I should be like boosting other people, because I know a lot of people that do a lot of really great sessions, and I really like to support them all. But I also am really just trying to learn.
No, that's good.
No, and I think that's valid because, and Shane mentioned that he used to be on the program committee, and I'm on the program committee right now. And as a committee, yes, we look at popular names from attendance from previous years, but we're also looking at just hot topics and what's unique and what's different to draw attention to it, because you may want to just go to a session that you've never been to before that is a new topic that's never been talked about. And obviously there's always going to be different trends every year. So that's obviously a tipping point of getting people there to speak on different topics.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I'm actually not presenting at NRPA or TRAPS this year. For no reason other than we had a really rough spring and I just didn't submit anything. We're kind of a mess. We're hanging in there, but it's been a mess for our department. So yeah, I just didn't have my act together. I'm doing too many jobs right now. So
you'll enjoy going and just attending.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, for sure. I am. Again, it's kind of embarrassing, but I really like conferences for the education part, not so much the networking. Like I 100%, especially if it's a day that I present, like I go back to my hotel room and all the lights off, air down to 60, and I'm like ordering a pizza and Friends on TV because it's Friends or The Office is always on in every hotel room, between like Nick at Night and Comedy Central and stuff. And so like that's it. Like I don't want to talk to anybody else. I just want to sit in the cold dark room and like just decompress. I'm not as social as I should be. So.
I need to send you a Friends shirt that we made from Pflugerville. It's the Friends font, but it's got a P on it. Yeah.
Cool.
You'll probably get it before we ever get one.
Yeah.
Tom and I still don't have the shirt.
Guaranteed.
I mean, now that I know that, can that go in my care package?
Yeah, we've got plenty of those.
Okay, all right.
But what color is it?
Is it blue?
Is
it black?
palette?
It's white.
Hey, all right. White's good.
Okay.
Okay, well, and we're going to do a quick little round robin, some rapid fire questions for you.
Okay.
So first thing that comes to mind when we ask you a question, and I'll go first. And what has been your favorite session that you presented at any conference?
Probably it's a tie. Okay, I know, sorry. So the Netflix session, because it definitely reached a lot of people, like a lot of people connected with it. I think I ended up doing it like 19 times by the time I was done with all different conferences and people and organizations and stuff. And it was really fun and, uses lots of different TV shows and movies. And I think I usually do like 10 or 15 in when I present it, and I have like, I don't know, 40 or something that I could do because I just keep coming up with more ideas for it. But then the Taylor Swift one, personally, just because it was a lot of fun. That's the one I was doing when the walls weren't working and it was a nightmare. It was the worst. But then I ended up doing it for a different conference later and was able to update it and make it much better. So now I like it.
Cool.
Actually, one of my rapid fires was going to be based on what Shane led into this was, do you design a lot of the content for your organization, which would include t-shirts and slogans and anything like that?
Yes, I consider myself in charge of anything that is public facing. So every report, every presentation, every shirt, every anything.
Okay, so this is a side question just for me personally, do you do your annual report?
Uh-huh.
Would you be willing to share that? We're looking to revamp our annual report, so that's a whole nother. Okay, all right, let's get back to the show.
We're just not a podcast anymore.
I'll send you our master plan because our master plan is really, really good.
This is a private conversation going on.
We're just awkwardly sitting now.
Hey,
we
you know what?
started our master plan in 2019, and then 2020 happened, and so we had like all these committees that were supposed to be doing all that because we did it completely internally, and so we had all these committees that were supposed to be doing all the different parts of it, and then we couldn't meet with anybody because of COVID, and so Matt, our director, and I just did the whole master plan ourselves.
Wow.
So yeah, and a lot of pages, like I would just like write whole like pages of stuff based on like stuff I'd seen other places, guessing, and then I'd send it to him, and then he would make all the changes to make it accurate. It ended up really nice and it's beautiful, and I'm very proud of our master plan. But yeah, nobody ever was excited about it. But it was a really great experience for me because it was like 2 years into working here. So I now feel like I know like everything about the department and all this stuff about like standards and stuff like that. Like I really got to understand like how stuff works and why we do things and stuff. So I'll send you that too.
Okay. All right. That wasn't really my rapid fire, but this show is just as much for me as it is for our 5 listeners. All right, Shane and Jay. So
for sure.
Let's be real. So, and my rapid fire was to really give some credit to Shane. He is very creative with these t-shirts. And so do you have a t-shirt that you've designed that you could think of, you say, this was a really cool one that we're really proud of? And it doesn't have to be a t-shirt, a slogan, or some kind of a campaign.
The wildflower campaign was funny.
Oh, the pictures of the dogs. Those were just pictures. Yeah, we did pictures of our park crews. We had done a couple years ago. I did a photo shoot with our park guys in Bluebonnet flowers, and like I told them like Playgirl but G-rated.
I've
And
seen this.
yeah, and they delivered. It was amazing. And then after that, everybody kept asking us to do it again. And I was like, kind of like it's the same thing. It's not as fun. And so then last year we did it with them again, but this time they were holding shelter dogs because that was the new hook, right? Had to make it something a little bit different. And that one, it is also award winning. So that one was really cute and I got a lot of coverage on the media, and we got like 20 something dogs adopted. So that was really nice too. So that was really fun. Yeah, I mean, I think most of like my cute shirts and stuff that I like are not really ones that we would be allowed to to print or whatever. I love like designing like all the graphics and all the shirts and stuff. I think we're always just again trying to do something, we've done like the in my recreation era, and like all the things just trying to be, something that's like trendy and stuff that people are interested in. All of our Barks and Rec shirts are always very good. I feel like they're all usually pretty good because people always ask if they can buy them. And usually we don't like make them intending to sell them, but then we end up selling them just because of that. We adopted our mission and vision statement 2 years ago. And so I started a whole campaign based on that. So the vision is, where is it there? Yeah, to inspire Mansfield to gather, grow, preserve, and play through welcoming spaces and remarkable experiences. And so we took gather, grow, preserve, and play and made that our essentially tagline for the department. So we've done last year we did a full like year-long campaign where every month was focused on different things. So it was a grow month. And so we had like a fitness challenge and, some outdoor in the park. And then it was a preserve month. And so we did, nature things and pick up trash and that kind of stuff. We've done a lot of really neat stuff with that, which is really fun. And then we kind of, use those words all the time, like in our branding. So much of really effective branding is just like the consistency and, using the phrasing and making sure your voice is really strong and consistent, just because then it's easier for people to recognize it. Like a lot of people always try to do something completely different and creative. And it's hard when you're a creative person and you want it to look super different every time. I was actually going to tell you that like our annual report looks a lot like our rec guide, which also looks a lot like our master plan, because we just do have a pretty solid brand look, which can be frustrating as someone who likes designing stuff really crazy and different. But you want people to scroll and see it and know that that's what it is. I always tell people like a strong brand, like they could do something completely different and you would know what it was. Like if Apple all of a sudden had a hotel, like you already know what an Apple hotel looks like, even if you don't like Apple, right? You can picture that in your head. Or a Monster Energy drink hotel. It's not going to look like an Apple hotel, right? But you can picture what it looks like because both of them have really strong brands. So you want people to, as they're just like scrolling on their thumb through their phone, see something and know immediately that it is from you. So that is always like that delicate balance of design is making it look, cohesive with your organization, but also still fun and creative and different. So
yeah, I love that. We do that with all of we have a similar design where it just seems strong enough that it's something that people could relate to. We put it on, our vehicles, we put it on our walls. And we've even gone as far as putting it on our business cards, but to get creative with it, we allow every one of our team members to pick the photo. So the design and the consistency of the brand. So it's almost like, it's not like a baseball card, but it's almost like a baseball card. It's unique to that individual, but also consistent with the flow.
Yeah, I love that. That's good. Yeah. And we do, I will say like one of the areas where we do have more fun with it is like event t-shirts, because those are something that, it's more like time sensitive. So that can be a little bit more unique to that event kind of thing. So you do get to do some creative stuff. I can't really think of a good shirt that I've done lately, but we have some fun ones. I did do one I found in looking for some old stuff. I found our old city logo from the 70s. That was really fun. So I like digitized that and we made some stuff out of that. So it's just very like retro cool. So
I'm working on a goat shirt right now. Maybe I'll send that out.
Okay.
Yeah.
Actual goats or like greatest of all time goats?
No, I ended up leasing 200 goats.
The grass eating goats.
Putting them in our park system to do brush abatement, poison ivy, fire abatement. And we had a flash flood and they got pinned up against the fencing and people started calling. They thought the goats were going to drown and they called police and public works and everyone came out. And I was trying to convince police and public works not to let them out until our herder got there. I was saying stuff that I was like, goats can swim. Leave them alone. They're fine. Please do not release these pins. And the police went out and they released the pins. And the next text I got from them is they're everywhere. And ultimately, those goats ran all over the park system, all over our main road. People started tagging us on Facebook as these goats they'd stop traffic both ways coming and going. The herder couldn't get to him with the herd dog because he was stuck in the traffic. And we did a social media post where we had goats in inner tubes and we said the goat survived and we got them all rounded up and put in a pen. So I'm making a shirt with a goat in an inner tube, and it's going to say whatever floats your goat in Pflugerville, Texas. So
I love it.
Very cute.
Always making shirts.
Stickers have been very popular for us, and they're a lot
Yeah, we
cheaper.
do stickers too. There's my shady as
Very nice.
BF sticker.
I love it.
Back to the round robin. We're terrible at this, obviously.
Yeah, I would say I'm the worst at short answers. Sorry. Yeah.
If it sounds like you've lived in Wisconsin and Texas, so let's take those two off the map. Any place else in the United States that, not related to family, just you had to restart. You had to go be a director or a Parks and Rec person in a different state. What state appeals to you and why?
I would move to New York City.
Oh,
Actually, I included this in my fun fact things. Part of the reason I was even interested in Parks and Rec is because of the High Line in New York. You guys know what the High Line is? Yes.
absolutely.
Yes, I am obsessed with it. And I think really what I love so much about it is, and I mean, like I like read multiple books. I have the whole coffee table book of it. It's fascinating. And they do really nice shirts too. I don't know if you've ever seen like their branding because it's like an H but it looks like the map of the High Line. Yeah, it's really nice. But I just loved the idea of taking something that was
repurposed
and falling apart, but also like a part of history, and then completely repurposing it without losing the actual character and function of it.
Not only that, they revitalized that area too.
But then, so then not only did it like save the High Line, but then it saved the entire neighborhood. It's like, I forget what the number is. It's like a 10-something billion dollar impact that they've had in 10 years. Wow. On that whole part of New York City and the community. And like, there's so much development that's come around it. And just like, again, not just like economically, but like the community, like there's places for people to exist and spend time together and everything. And it was just like, wow, like a mile of trail completely transformed an entire section of the biggest, most important city in the world. I don't know, important, but you know what I mean? So like, what a crazy impact that a little park could have, right? And they've done a ton of other stuff in New York, like all of their the old shipping piers they're all doing. So if you've seen the Little Island in New York, have you guys seen that one? Oh, you should look up Little Island as soon as you get off because it's insane. It's like Petals, sort of. The way that they built it up, it literally just looks like little little petals, and it's an entire park with like a skate park and a wildflower area, and there's like a concert area where like you can like have a concert performer and they're like on the river. Yeah, so I just like all the creativity of the stuff that they're doing in New York City.
We talked about, this is a personal question, but you've intrigued me with your discussion when you mentioned going into the hotel room and maybe watching The Office or Friends, but you also have the candles of Parks and Rec and Ron Swanson there. What can you just rank the three? What Office, Friends, Parks and Rec?
Oh wow.
Oh, they're very different, like emotionally. Like they're
Jay, these are TV shows.
Yes, Jay's never seen Parks and Rec, by the way.
Or any of them, probably. He's probably never seen anything. So
I've seen some episodes of Friends.
Yeah. Like Friends is like very special because like I watched that like as a high school student, growing up, like Friends was like a big, like I remember like Thursday night appointment TV kind of thing like that. So Friends has a very special place in my heart. I will say, like, I rewatched it with my girls. I forget which one it was that was watching it. She was maybe like 13 or 14. And she kept being like, this is not appropriate. Like, there's a lot of stuff that does not hold up as well on Friends, more so than the others. Like, at least on like The Office, when Michael makes all the inappropriate jokes that he does, the joke is always that he's inappropriate. He's not like the cool one making the bad jokes. Whereas on Friends, like it's the cool people that are making the bad jokes. So that's the only issue there. Yeah, I think they're all just very different moods. I will say, if you watch Parks and Rec, just skip the first season. Don't even watch the first season because you won't like it if you do. There is one clip, if you just Google People of Pawnee, it's like 10 minutes long on YouTube, and it is just different clips from Parks and Rec where they had public meetings and like the people that stand up and leave comments.
Yeah.
It's hilarious, and anybody who works in city government will 100% appreciate it because it's so much that. So like Parks and Rec, I like because of that. You know, like there's so many things that you're like, that's exactly what it's like.
Yeah.
Honestly, Veep, which is like a HBO show with Julia Louis-Dreyfus, a lot of times that feels like way more accurate to city government, which like she curses a lot. So I just have to add that disclaimer anytime I recommend it. Like it's a great show, but they curse a lot. But that one definitely feels like really hits home with
Veep's one of my favorite
I love that show
shows.
so
Their
much.
their last season was tough to watch, I think, but the first couple are great. The first season is magic. It is hilarious. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really, really good. And really I see a lot of like her in some of our leadership. But yeah, it just depends on what kind of mood I'm in. Also, sometimes I'm in a Grey's Anatomy mood and I just want to cry. Like there's certain episodes that I will just pull up just to cry. So there's some episodes that I literally know by heart. I could just say them. I do like TV. I love TV. I watch a lot of TV. ER, I love ER. I rewatched that a lot of times. The West Wing, I love The West Wing. I watch that one a lot too.
What about Lost?
You know, I never really got into Lost. Yeah, it was a little bit too much. I don't love like fantasy stuff. I don't do like Game of Thrones or anything like that. Yeah.
I'm a Sorkin fan. I like Newsroom. I like West Wing. Great stuff.
I feel Jay's lost in this conversation right now.
Yeah, these are all TV shows. People watch them and have fun.
Yeah. You clearly didn't go to my Netflix presentation because
No, I actually have a handful that I was like glued to. I love Homeland is like one of my all-time favorites.
Okay.
Dexter. I love Dexter.
Lots of death. He needs death.
I love what?
Death.
But she said ER. I like ER. ER was fantastic.
Death.
Yep.
Yeah, ER is really good. One of my friends at work here is watching ER for the first time. Like I convinced her to start it. And it has been very funny because she will all of a sudden text me and be like, oh my God, Lucy died. And I'm like, yes, like just excited for her to like get to all these like super dramatic moments. Like remember when Romano's arm gets cut off by the helicopter? Spoiler alert from 25 years ago.
That was a long time ago.
But yeah, so it's been very fun just like watching her watch it basically. Yeah.
Well, I have one more and it will be a quick one and then we'll close it out. Favorite ice cream flavor?
That's not a quick one.
It's got to be a Bluebell flavor.
It depends on my mood. Yeah, of course it's Bluebell. I really only eat Bluebell.
Have y'all ever had Bluebell? Either of y'all?
What?
I was asking the boys.
I've had it not often.
Yeah, if I have, I hadn't known.
Okay. It's a Texas thing, so I don't know how far it gets out.
Well, see, like I have, and Tom will know this, Perry's ice cream is my like favorite thing on earth, but it's only available through like Wegmans and like up Northeast. And you can get it a little bit further down here if you go to Wegmans. So like when I go to Wegmans in Raleigh, I'll pack it back and bring it to Charlotte, but we don't have Wegmans yet, so I can't get it in Charlotte.
Yeah, when I was in grad school at Illinois, they didn't have Bluebell. And even though I didn't have a sweet tooth, I did miss on those occasions when I wanted ice cream, the ice cream I was used to growing up with for sure. So
yeah,
it's definitely a Bluebell flavor. And what's your ice cream?
So, I mean, probably all time is white chocolate peppermint bark. It's obviously a Christmas exclusive flavor. It is like a white chocolate flavored ice cream and then actual pieces of peppermint bark with like chocolate on them and then separate little chunks of white chocolate and little chunks of chocolate. That one is really, really amazing. I can't even describe it. It's not the peppermint, which is like green with little tiny balls of peppermints in it. This is white chocolate peppermint bark. But actually all of the Bluebell flavors are seasonal other than vanilla chocolate, the Great Divide, which is half vanilla, half chocolate, and cookies and cream. Those four are always available. Everything else is cyclical. So like chocolate chip is only a summertime flavor. That's part of why I have to have the separate freezer so that I can keep my favorite flavors. Because cherry vanilla, I love its maraschino cherries. I know it's terrible. Like I have really trash taste, I will tell you. Like I prefer Velveeta over actual cheese.
Velveeta's good.
They just came out with A&W root beer float. And so it's like a sherbet made of A&W root beer, which being from Wisconsin, partial to A&W by far over Barks, not even close. But then it's like swirled with a vanilla ice cream. So they also have a Dr. Pepper float, which is the same thing as Dr. Pepper sherbet mixed with the vanilla swirl. I'm not really a Dr. Pepper drinker, so it's good. It's just not my favorite. But the A&W root beer float is really, really good, especially if you make a root beer float out of it. So.
If you follow Finsey, and there's no reason for the boys to really know Finsey, he'll post ice cream that the Bluebell flavor he's crunching on at the moment on his Facebook page sooner or later. And that's usually, because I don't eat it very often, that's usually how I know what the newest flavor is
Dr.
Pepper float. It's about to go down or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, they'll post. I follow them on Instagram and Facebook, Bluebell. And when they're coming out with a new flavor, they will like announce it and then like a week early. And then on Thursday, they will give like a little hint and they'll post like a picture that's like a hint of it. And then Friday morning is when they actually announce it and it comes out. But yeah, there's not a single time that a new flavor comes out that I don't get tagged by like 100,000 people. And they're like, oh my gosh, did you see this? Did you see this? So it's kind of now become like my second job is that as soon as a new flavor comes out, I have to try it and then leave a review. I'm trying
Get your
to
own
get a job,
podcast.
so.
Yeah.
Get your own
Well,
podcast episode.
I would be like their marketing person if they would hire me. See, I won't go to Shane, but I would go to Bluebell.
There you go.
We're gonna make this
I did
happen.
present at the Traps Central conference
In Brenham.
solely because it was in Brenham. Yep, I did. Yeah, absolutely. I was like, yes, I will definitely drive 3 hours.
You
for-
take the tour and you get a free pint at the end of any flavor you want. I've
Oh,
had
well,
that.
their speaker gifts, they had like an empty, clean tub. I know they got them from Bluebell of like a Bluebell ice cream tub. And then they also gave a pint koozie, which is just like a drink koozie, but it's specifically made to fit a pint of Bluebell.
That's
And it
cool.
looks like the outside of a Bluebell thing. And
That's
then
cool.
like a gift card for, it was all Bluebell themed stuff in their speaker gift. It was very exciting. It was worth the
Nice.
drive.
So here's the funny thing. I was in Brenham. That same thing with Ann, the home of Bluebell ice cream. And I spent my time going to 2 top 50 barbecue places. So that's how
no, I get it. I get it.
anti-sweet tooth I am. I went and
Yep.
tried 2 different barbecue places in 4 or 5 hours instead of going to Bluebell. But
If the
I
four
would-
of
I would've
us
done
went,
both.
I was gonna say
We'll
we
split
could
up.
split. Yeah, we could
Yeah.
divide and conquer.
Well, Ann, I appreciate it, and we appreciate the time. This has been fantastic, and we learned a lot, and we don't necessarily talk about the engagement and the communications aspect of our positions or our departments as much as we probably should. So this was really good to kind of dive into that on a deeper level.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, everybody's doing really great work out there, but what's the point if nobody knows about it, right? So
Yeah.
thanks so
Well,
much.
thank you
Ann.
for joining us.
yeah,
Thanks,
it was
Ann.
fun. Yeah, sorry I talked too much.
No,
No, it's
no,
great.
not at all.
Good.
Not
This
at
was
all.
this was awesome.
That's the
Thank
one
you.
requirement of a podcast is talking.
Is
so
talking.
you're
It
good.
is. It's a good point.
Okay.
All right. Thanks, Ann. Have a good one.
Okay, you too. Bye-bye.
See ya.
Okay, take care.
We also don't talk a lot about ice cream.
We don't.
So,
We do
and
now.
today we do. Jay, great poll.
Excellent.
Shane never lets anybody guess when he guesses. So, like, I was thinking Ann as well.
Oh,
When you
okay.
said
I wasn't
third or
trying
fourth
to
in.
ruin it today.
That's okay. That's okay. That's the first time someone put her picture. They put her picture up right after, and
I had 2 more things I wanted to say, even though it was already he knew what it was.
yeah.
And it's funny because I had to reach back out to her to like get some like interesting fun facts that Shane wouldn't know, because I didn't want to be like, one of us lives in the same
Mansfield,
state as
yeah,
this
yeah.
person, and one of it would have been too easy. So I wanted to go a little bit deeper.
I knew it was Ann pretty quick just because of the profile of this was her first time in the field and she wasn't from this field, and I was trying to
I
think
didn't
about
know
other
that.
people. Yeah.
And that really was so interesting to me because she's crushing it. And to know that that's your first role that you've been in our profession, obviously, like she's been around in other positions, but first one in Park and Rec and to be as successful as she has been is really impressive.
We talk about there's no overnight success, and it's really a shitty thing to say that Ann burst onto the scene. She had been in Parks and Rec for 4 or 5 years before she did that conference. But I served on the program committee proudly for 13 years, at least 10 of those 13 years. But I served on the program committee for a long time, saw thousands of program sessions, thousands. I mean, when you talk about you see 600, 700, 800 every year for 13 years, I saw a ton of proposals. I've been to a lot of sessions. I am a session nerd. I have strong feelings about sessions, as Jay knows, being in the program committee and hearing me rail on things. And session that it was during that Instagram session was the single most amazing session I'd ever been on, where I just was like, no one's doing it like this. This is so different than anyone. I reached out to our state conference. I reached out to our NRPA session. I was like, she needs to speak for as many things as y'all want her to speak at. She is absolutely amazing. I guess that term would be fangirl. I was as into what she was talking about, and I knew nothing about it. I learned so much about marketing and Instagram from the couple of sessions I went to her. It was informative, easy to understand. It was a lot like Bobby Nance in some ways, where she's talking about selling something no one else knows, and she's explaining it
Yep.
so simply that you're like, oh my gosh, for the first time, I now get this. And she's great.
Yeah, that's what Ann said earlier, was taking a really complex topic and putting it into a relatable format, which is, obviously really important when it comes to marketing, because that's obviously it's something that we all need to do and we all need to try to do it well. With Ann, I remember you doing that, Shane. I remember you going or attending that session and then telling all of us, right? So, but yes, no, it speaks highly of her. She's great.
I told her pre-show that I first heard her name from you in Nashville.
Mhm.
You went to her session. It was Nashville because there was, everyone had to do 2 sessions,
Yeah.
present it twice. And you went and you were like, listen, if you're going to go to one session, the rest of the week, go to hers. And I told her that you said that. I went to her session, and that has been something that I remember. And that's how I got to know her, from that one. And that was 6 years ago.
Yeah.
4 or 5 years ago, whatever it was.
She is absolutely, if I see her on a conference, I'm dropping things to listen to her. Not because she's such a great speaker. We have incredible speakers. We know those names. We're talking about Barbara Heller or Neelay or different people over the years that they could probably read a grocery list to you and keep you entertained. Her thing is that the structure of her session, the structure of her presentation is so incredible that first of all, she's very well spoken, but that's not why I go. I go because I can go to 6 or 8 sessions of hers back to back and learn something different every single time. And it's always entertaining. Whether she's done a Don't Mess with Texas one, obviously in a Texas state, she's done those Netflix ones and those other ones. And even though there's simple structures that she's doing to connect with people, it's not cheap. It's not some cheap thing that she's throwing out. Every time you watch the 2-second clip about Parks and Rec and then she relates it connects. She's really good at engagement, and it shows not only on her postings, but when she's talking to people.
Oh yeah, she's very authentic, right? You could tell in the conversation we had with some of the ways she went about answering the questions. And yes, that's a big part of it, is making any kind of a session. I'm a big fan of her sessions for that reason, as a student of presenting, right? And you could tell in some of the comments she made today that she practices what she preaches too. So that whole fun fact, I don't know about you guys, but she was saying how she uses those sometimes, right? Like that's she loves them. And then that can really re-engage an audience. When she started telling us about the alligators today, we were in the middle of a completely different topic. And then all of a sudden, like a snap of the finger, I was all engaged about, wait a minute, these alligators, they don't have a life expectancy. And then, she had mentioned, when I asked her about The Office and Parks and Rec and Friends, even her answer to that was, depends on my mood. That's exactly what she's telling us to do when we market to our people, is read a room, know the audience, know the mood that you want to hit with your posts. So it's, a lot of lessons. You could learn a lot from a conversation with Ann.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Great. We got Tom next. It's been a while since we had a Tom.
Yeah. Well, I front loaded, right? So I'm excited. I'm excited to get back into the hosting saddle. And Jay, you mentioned Perry's. I didn't want to keep Ann any longer. Peanut butter s'mores. I'm not a huge dessert guy, but that is a phenomenal ice cream flavor. Okay,
I've had it. Yeah. And I love it. There is a shop we go to in Grand Island, which is about 20 minutes from where my parents live. They have probably 50 flavors, all Perry's. And we go there every time I'm home. And I've had that one last time I was there.
It's good stuff.
But thank you guys, listeners out there. Hope you enjoyed, and we'll talk to you soon.
See ya.